Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Colts Coffee and Conversation. My name is Carl.
And I'm Holly.
I'd like to welcome you to another wonderful edition to Colts Coffee and Conversation. First, let's do our disclaimer so we can get that out of the way. We are normal, regular human beings, Americans, and we are just doing this for entertainment purposes only. We do not hold degrees in any religious backgrounds. We are just here to observe, give our comments, break it down, and find out what we can find out, and go from there. Now, if you want to reach us or contact us, you can always contact us at coltscoffeecon1@gmail.com. That is our email address. You can also contact us at Instagram at Colts Coffee Conversation.
No, it's Colts Coffee Convo on Instagram.
Colts Coffee Convo on Instagram. And then, of course, we do have our Facebook fan page at Colts Coffee Conversation, all one word. And also, we do have the voicemail message system at
Anchor.
We do have it on Anchor as well?
Yes.
Oh, that's new. I did not know that. All right, awesome. So you also have that one as well. But please subscribe to where you can sign up to any podcast. Hit subscribe, like us, love us, give us 5 stars. Tell us that you're just following the rules. I don't care. As long as you give us the 5 stars, you can say whatever you want in the comments. Just give us those 5 stars and subscribe. I'm begging you to subscribe. Okay, now here we are. This is a very, 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 very special addition to Colts Coffee and Conversation. You want to know why?
Why is that, Carl?
Because we have a person that is going to tell the tale of a group that they were members of. Okay, it's very close and near and dear to that individual's hearts, and I'm very, very much so looking forward to this adventure that we're going on together. It's special to you.
Yes, who is the special person?
Well, this special person was part of the, I believe it's called the IFB.
And that stands for?
The Independent Fundamental Baptists.
Yes.
Yes. And guess who this person is? Person, would you please introduce yourself to the Colts Coffee and Conversation group?
Hello, my name is Holly.
Oh, got you guys. That's right. Holly was involved at a tender young age for the IFB. And, of course, that's the Independent Fundamental Baptists. I'm not going to be saying that 50,000 times over, and neither will Holly. But we're just going to call it the IFB for short. Mm-hmm. So we're going to go ahead and get into it. We're going to talk about how she got involved in it. We're going to talk about who the leaders were, the setup, and everything. So guess what? Buckle your seatbelts, ladies and gentlemen, because we are going on for a ride. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the Independent Fundamental Baptists, or the IFB. So, the IFB, it looks like it's based out of, you said what, Chicago, the suburb of Chicago?
Oh, it was Hammond, Indiana.
Hammond, Indiana. Boy, I was off on that one. We're going to go ahead and get into the section to where, you know what? Let's start from the beginning. How did you get involved with the IFB?
Yes, Carl, thank you. How it started was when I was a young child. We lived in San Jose, California, and my mother thought it was a good idea for us to go to Sunday school for some Christian instructions. So what we did, my sisters and I, we went to a Sunday school at the Church of the Foothills. And it was a Baptist church, but it was an American Baptist church. And I went there from 1959 to about 1966. So it's kindergarten through 6th grade.
Okay, 7 years.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it there. I only went to Sunday school. I never went to the big church because my mother felt that at that age I wouldn't get anything out of it anyway.
Okay.
Now, she did not attend.
Okay.
She would just drop us off. My sisters went with me, and we walked there, and we got picked up by our mother after Sunday school. So I think my sister Meredith was baptized there.
Okay.
In fact, I know she was, because we were there to watch her. And the unusual part of that was, instead of going down backwards in being immersed, that most Baptists do, and there's of course no sprinkling, she went forward. They baptized her forward. And I don't know why. I've never seen that since, but that was just something unusual. The thing that I remember was that when I was in 7th grade, for some reason I felt uncomfortable in the Sunday school class.
Okay.
And I think it possibly could have been because we all sat in a circle. Now, in those days, in the 60s, in the mid-60s, a little bit past that, everyone wore dresses and skirts. And, you were dressed up to go to Sunday school. You weren't in comfortable clothes.
You put on your Sunday best, as
yes,
they say.
you did.
Mm.
And I remember when you're in that age, I wasn't a skinny mini. I wasn't fat by any means, because I look back, I would look fine. But I didn't know how to cross my legs like an adult lady.
Ah.
So I had to sit there and make sure that my knees were kept together the whole time, because you don't want to have that,
right.
that going on with a co-ed class.
Right.
So I just remember I was kind of like keeping my knees together. That's all I could think about. So I did not enjoy that class.
Mm.
And then I kind of remember I didn't have any church friends that I can remember.
Mm.
I mean, I might have known people, but I don't remember any of them at all.
Mm.
And I think it was because my parents weren't members of that church. I was just dropped off for an hour on Sunday and picked up.
Now, real quick on this, you being a youth, would you be considered a member of the church just by going to the Sunday schools?
No, because I wasn't baptized yet.
Ah.
And in Baptist churches, you get baptized to become a member.
Oh, okay.
I was too small.
You were
at
too
this
small.
point, yeah.
And how old would they say that you'd have to?
About 12.
12. Oh, okay.
Okay, so I was coming into that age by this time, 7th grade. Well, one of my best friends at the time invited me to her family's church.
Okay.
And would pick me up every Sunday. And I not only went to Sunday school, but stayed for the big church. So I was happy because that way I really liked this family. They all went to church. They lived down the street. We went to school together. And
There's
I thought,
a comfortability there.
yeah, it was really nice. And so we went. And yes,
real quick. Now, the church that you originally went to just for Sunday school, what kind of Baptist was that?
Oh, it was an American Baptist church.
Okay.
Now, the American Baptists were what we would consider in those days more liberal, which meant that they did have a different version of the Bible. They read out of the RSV, which is the Revised Standard Version.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a new version that came out that was all controversial with more conservative Christians.
Right. Now, with this new church, what are they also considered American?
Oh, the other church I went to?
The new one.
No, the new one was actually the first church that I was in that was an IFB.
So
Independent Fundamental Baptist Church.
So you went from basically an American to an IFB church?
Yes.
Okay, so
But it was still Baptist at that point. Who knows? I was a child. I didn't know the difference. I just knew.
Okay, because you were just basically
a
summer
Baptist.
School. You just labeled yourself as a Baptist.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, fair
so
enough.
it seemed okay. It wasn't a
Natural
big
transition.
Right, it wasn't a big variance of what,
Okay.
I was already in. So
Right.
my mother was fine with it.
Okay.
We went to Sunday school, and I had the pastor's wife teaching me. In fact, it happened for 7th and 8th grade, and I really loved her so much. I enjoyed her class. I don't remember exactly how she taught, but I just liked it. I was very engaged, a lot better than the other one.
Right.
And the other thing that was different, very different, was the pastor at the Church of the Foothills was calm and, he was a teacher, I guess, more
But very
more or less.
monotone-ish?
Not really monotone, but you're a kid. Most adults talking are kind of like Charlie Brown, rah, 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 rah,
Right.
So it didn't affect me one way or the other because at Church of the Foothills, I did go to the vacation Bible schools that were fun. I did the Easter and Christmas programs, so I was only with the pastor at those times.
Right.
Everything else was Sunday school.
Right.
Well, when I went into this other church, and this other church was called United Baptist Church, and it was in San Jose, California. Well, the pastor would scream and holler in his sermons. I mean, literally, he was a white guy, very young at the time. I didn't realize how young he was until later because, you're a kid. Everybody over the age of 19 is an adult to you.
How old was he?
Let's
Do you
see.
remember?
He was, I'm sorry, I had doing the math here. Probably 22.
Oh, wow. That is young.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's how young he was. 22,
Wow.
23 years old.
Gotcha.
So he was fiery, and he would go, and he would really scream and holler.
Oh.
Okay, and he would pound the pulpit,
Oh.
and he would walk around, and he would get like...
Extremely animated.
Oh, yeah. I mean, wow. Would have liked to have some videos of that. I've never found any. Anyway, so I was not bored. Let's just put it that way.
Right. Obviously
And
got your
since
attention.
I was in 7th grade, I was beginning to comprehend adult topics.
Gotcha.
Okay, that seemed to be and that's why I think they like to say about at 12 years old is when you become the age of accountability.
Right.
Okay, now, the main topic of all the morning service was, if you are not saved by accepting Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior, you were on your way to hell. Okay, well, I understood about Jesus Christ from all my Sunday schools. We had all the stories. We had all the Old Testament stories and New Testament stories. I love Jesus. But that question would always be, have you ever accepted Jesus Christ into your heart?
Right.
And I'm like, no. I mean, I just knew about him. I believed in him. It wasn't like a thing that you do.
You were aware of him.
Yeah, well, it wasn't like this process.
Right.
So their process was that you had to accept Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior in a public way. Like I said, I never asked Christ into my heart in the way that they said. I decided after Christmas one year, I would go forward and accept Christ. And so I did. New Year's Day in 1967, I was saved.
Cool beans.
So what you do is in those churches, they sing "Just as I Am" without one plea. They do like about 99 verses of that. Okay?
99 verses of it?
Well, okay, I exaggerated.
Oh, okay. I was like, I'm actually taking like everything literal. I'm like,
at
99?
least 5 to 7 verses.
It's the same thing over and over again, like repetitive?
Yes. Well, there's different verses.
Oh, okay.
But it's,
How long, like, ballpark timing of the song? What, 10 minutes?
Oh, yeah, at least. And you're singing it, Anybody that's been to a Baptist church...
knows this song.
Oh, yes. I mean, it was, you don't sing anything else.
Really?
No, honest to goodness. You only sing "Just as I Am." And if anybody out there knows, you've been in these type of Baptist churches, you know what I am talking about.
Let me guess, you still know every word of it, don't you?
I do. I won't go into it right now.
No, it's fine.
But anyway, I got saved, and I really believe it was a good experience. It was a true one, because I did think about it. I made that decision. I was nervous as all get out. I had to go forward, and then you go into a little room, and they have a counselor, and they tell you the Romans Road, which is something that we'll talk about later. But it's a few verses just telling you that, you are a sinner, you need a Savior, Christ came to save you, and that you accept him into your heart, you pray a prayer, and you're saved.
Right.
Okay?
Got it.
About 6 months later, I was baptized.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the main part of how I stepped into the doors of an IFB church. Now, I did not know it was an IFB church at the time.
But it was an IFB then?
Yes, because the pastor there, his name was Larry Chappell. He's still alive, but his name is Larry Chappell. Mm-hmm. And he, at that time, was just starting this church. And he didn't start the church. He took it over. They called him. They called him to preach. Mm-hmm. He came from the Central Valley, and he called to preach there. They were involved with the Conservative Baptist Church. And that's a denomination. It's a denomination.
Yeah, let's talk about this for a second, because most people just think, Baptist is Baptist, all Baptists are the same. They're not, right? So you have the conservative, which we talked about. Conservatives just, what was it? The S what? The version, the Bible version?
Oh, okay. So the American Baptists were more liberal. The Conservative Baptist was a denomination. So they had a structure where they had a headquarters.
Right.
And everybody, came out from there.
Organized.
And it was very organized. Right. And he didn't like that because they're going to tell him what to do. And when you're an independent fundamental Baptist, you don't want anybody above the actual pastor telling you what to do.
Okay.
Okay, so the hierarchy is the pastor is in charge, the deacons, so they have a certain setup. So he had to withdraw that church from that denomination, which is probably a legal and financial thing that he had to do.
Right.
Now, I wasn't in on all the ins and the outs.
We're just kind of
obviously because I was 12.
Right. No, I'm just kind of painting a picture of some people thinking, well, aren't all Baptists the same? The answer is no.
Okay, so now the Independent Fundamental Baptists, some of their key things is they are King James only Bible people.
Now, this is not the New King James. This is King James Version. What number did you say again?
It's the year 1611.
Okay.
16. So it's a KJV 1611. That's the lingo for it. Okay. Hashtag KJV 1611. Okay.
Oh yeah, we're gonna do that one.
Okay, so they're independent. In other words, they don't have fellowship together. They might have pastors' meetings. They support schools together.
Right.
But they don't have someone, if you don't do this, you're going to get kicked out of your church as a pastor. No, they don't do that.
They don't do that.
Okay, so that's kind of the basis of it.
All right, so let's go and break down the IFB real quick. So let's rewind. Let's talk about how this all got started. You're saying that the pastor there, he was not you could say the head leader of the IFB.
No, he was a young man.
Right? He didn't start it, right?
No. He was a young man. Obviously, he was 22, 23 years old. Mm-hmm. He went to Western Baptist Bible College in, I think it's in Minnesota.
Okay.
But anyway, he was there and, got his training, and then he came out and did some stuff. So what you're asking is, who was the leader of this?
Who was the starter? Who kickstarted, however you want to call it, the IFB?
What I would say, in my opinion, was Dr. Jack Hyles.
Okay, Dr. Jack Hyles. Okay. We'll get into him in a little bit later on, but let's go ahead and talk about, what did the... Okay, let's talk about Jack Hyles, because obviously he's the one who created the IFB. Is this correct?
Yes.
He is. Okay.
Right.
Now, we'll get into the details with the IFB, but let's talk about the ministry itself, though.
Yes, let's talk about the ministry
itself. What did they do?
Okay.
What did they do?
I have a list here of things that I thought about.
Okay.
And a lot of these things are general to most churches.
Okay.
Okay, and some are very unique to the IFB type churches.
Right.
Okay. So let's go over some of the things.
What did they have us? Obviously they had a Sunday school.
Yes,
right?
They had a Sunday school that we had. We had the different classes, just like everyone else. We sang little Sunday school songs. Had flannel graph. Got taught the.
Time out. What's flannel graph?
Oh, that's awesome.
Flannel graph? You just throw that out there.
Now, anybody out there that went to Sunday school in the 60s, 70s, even probably up to the 80s, had flannel graph. And what it is so cool. They have it's a board, like a storyboard.
Right.
And it has flannel. And it's a piece of flannel, like a cloth.
Right.
Okay. Flannel like PJs.
All right.
Only they would have some really talented people sometimes that would do chalk drawing on them that would make a background, like if it's going to be a desert scene or a pastoral scene or whatever it would be, and maybe for part of the story.
Okay.
And then they had like their paper figures. They had flannel in the back. And you would put the house there, or the donkey, or the little men, and you would tell the story, say about
Joseph and Mary.
Yeah, Joseph and Mary, right. And you would have and you put the stable there, and you have all these different.
You paint a picture.
Yeah, and
it's on flannel.
Yeah, it's on flannel, kind of like paper dolls. Okay. And you don't even know what paper dolls are because that was in my generation. But that's why they were teaching my generation, so they used flannel graph.
Okay, fair enough. All right, go.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I was like flannel.
That was
graph.
A little.
No, that's very interesting. Okay, what else?
Now the regular stuff would be camp.
Okay.
Okay, youth camp. Now it's funny about youth camp is I was thinking about this. The only things that there's a few elements of youth camp. We had to get into a broken down Sunday school bus. Okay. That would hopefully, we crossed our fingers that we make it to camp because it's always hundreds of miles away.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And there's no air conditioning. We're up in Northern California, going through the Central Valleys, getting to the mountains, and it's hotter than you know what in the Central Valley in the summertime.
Nice.
With no air. Okay, that's one of the things. But also, they would just do preaching and teaching in the morning after breakfast.
Right.
And then we would, have a break of some sort.
Okay.
We would have lunch. I don't even remember what we did in the afternoon, to be honest with you. I really don't. I just remember we had dinner, and after dinner we had a chapel kind of place. Like we would go in and they would preach and teach, and they would motivate us, our emotions, like, oh, we want to, surrender our whole selves to Christ. If we had sin in our lives, we need to confess all that stuff, go forward.
Right.
And, surrender to preach, teach, do something else, get saved even.
How long were these camps?
Well, summer camp was probably a week.
Okay. And
winter camp was probably 4 days or so.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Now, the other things... Well, go ahead.
No, I mean, that's
okay. Some of the things that or the camp that they do remember.
Yeah, I mean, so you went to camp. I was going to say, what do you remember about as far as the camps go?
Okay, so in the summer of July 1969, we went up to a high-altitude camp in the Colorado Rockies. Now, that's a really far trip from San Jose.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so we were outside of Cortez, Colorado.
Okay.
Okay, so that's in the southwest corner of Colorado.
Okay.
It's by Four Corners a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. I was up there. We were really high up. I remember it was scary as all get out because we were on this gravel road and all you could see was, a ravine that went straight down. And you're worried the buses were not... Okay, they were not...
They're definitely not road safety now.
I thought we were going to go off. We went there. We got there late for whatever reason. We got in a tent. It was so cold. We were so hot from being there in the desert and coming up to the altitude that we just plopped down on our sleeping bags. And I remember waking up a couple hours later like frozen.
Wow.
I guess a man had a heart attack up there.
Oh, wow.
And one of our... counselors. So we all moved down and it was raining and all these issues were happening. But I do remember that I found out that a man walked on the moon by overhearing an adult talking about it.
Oh, that's cool.
Well, it wasn't cool. I was upset.
Why?
Well, because I watched the space race the whole time from the beginning, from 60, 61. I would wake up at 4 a.m, watch this stuff. And now I missed the most important thing that ever happened.
You missed the end.
Yes, I did. Anyway.
Oh, it's fine.
And one winter camp, we went snow tubing.
Right.
And I only went halfway up the slope because it looked dangerous.
Right.
It was not an official tubing site.
Of course not.
I ended up wiping out and dislocating my elbow. I hurt so bad they had to carry me to the car and drive me to the hospital where they pulled it back in place.
Ooh,
yeah, that was fun.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, these are nothing... really unusual about these kind of activities.
Right. I mean, what was there like? What did they do as far as like? I understand this is the kid part. What about the adult part? What were adults doing?
Okay.
Like, for example, what did they do? Witnessing? What did they do?
Yes. Okay. So what we're going to talk about next is the soul winning. Okay. Now, what the heck is soul winning? That sounds different, doesn't it? I don't know if you've heard about it before.
No.
Okay. You say it's witnessing.
Ah, okay.
Okay. There, it was soul winning.
Okay.
You were witnessing, but you were soul winning. Witnessing to me is you're telling your story. Boom. Okay.
Right.
Soul winning means you got to win that soul. Okay.
Ooh.
You got to win it. You got to make that sale.
It's life or death.
Okay. So what is soul winning?
Right.
Okay, soul winning is when we went door to door.
Okay.
Knocked on the door. Hello, we introduced ourselves.
Sounds similar.
Where we were from.
To some other belief system.
Kind of.
A little bit, door to door,
we were
knock, knock.
on ourselves.
Okay.
Now, this is my experience because we were in the youth group and we'd go out and they'd drop us off in these neighborhoods.
Okay, so real quick. So what you're saying is that they would drop kids off to do all this? Where are the adults in the room?
Well, they were driving around the van, just making sure that, he kept track of everybody.
What? They made the kids do all the dirty work?
No. Adults did it too, but at a different time.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm sitting there like I'm trying.
Adults did it on Saturdays.
Okay. No, go ahead.
Okay, so we would go and we have a national youth survey, and we would knock on the door. Hello, my name is Holly. I am from United Baptist Church here, down the street. We are taking the national youth survey, and I was wondering if you have any teenagers in the house.
Okay, that's creepy.
No. And they would say, well, remember, this is not too far away from the Fuller Brush man who would knock on the door and sell you vacuums and cleaning supplies.
Oh, okay. All right.
Brooms.
I mean, nowadays, someone knocks on.
Yeah,
Would
right.
you like
Well,
to take a survey? You're like, no.
But this is back in the days where...
Different time, different era.
It was, yeah. And so they would say, oh, sure, and they would have their child or their teenager come, and we'd talk to them. And we have a series of questions. I don't think it was too long, but it would guide them into the last question would be, if you died tonight, do you know for sure you would go to heaven?
Okay.
And they would say yes or no.
Right.
And if most of them said no, I'm not sure. Well, if you could be sure, do you want to know how to do that?
Gotcha.
Okay. So it's a setup.
Right.
And then we would go through what we would call the Romans Road.
Okay, let's talk about the Romans Road real quick. Now, if you guys folks are Bible readers at all, and of course, I'm a New King James Version Bible reader.
It doesn't really matter.
It
all works.
But it all works. It's correct. What is the Romans Road?
Well,
not to get too.
I won't
it,
do it too much because So Romans Road is, you have Romans 3:10. For all have sinned, come short of the glory of God. Okay. Romans 3:23. For the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ our Lord. Okay. You have Romans 6:23. That might have been the wages of sin. I'm not sure. Then you have Romans 10:9-10, which is basically, for whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved, or something of that nature. It's been a while since I've done them. But I used to know how to crank it out pretty quickly. And I did quite a bit of memorization to, combat questions that people might have.
Right.
You go through this, and then you accept that, this is a gift. What's a gift? If I give you a gift, what you have to do is to accept it. If you don't accept it, it's not a gift, and it just, doesn't become yours. So would you like to accept this gift of salvation? And they would say yes or no.
Okay.
Okay, well then all we have to do is bow our heads, close our eyes, pray a prayer, repeat after me.
Right.
And you would, they would go through this prayer to accept Christ into their heart.
All right.
Okay, you get their information.
Gotcha.
And then you could follow up on them, or someone else would follow up on them later.
Gotcha.
Now, a lot of this is called easy believism. And this was a thing back in those days. A bone of contention within a lot of evangelical Christians.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
So that's just that. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so you're doing all this kind of stuff.
Now, if I would actually lead a prayer, then I won a soul.
Gotcha.
So when you go back to youth group, I want to praise the Lord for my testimony. I would like to praise the Lord. I was able to lead 5 people to the Lord.
Wait a minute, hold on. Time out. Wait, what? Okay, hold on. So what you wait, stop. Oh gosh. Okay, so what you're telling me is this, that you had to get up. Now is this in a big church or is this in this
youth group? Youth
group. Okay. So you have let me break this down so a little more people who kind of need to understand this. So you have Sunday school for the little ones. Youth group is from what age to what age? Ballpark.
Probably 7th through 12th.
7th through 12th grade. So junior high, high school.
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys would have your own services?
No. We would go into the big service, but we would have our own Sunday school. And then at night, we come back on Sunday nights.
What?
Yeah, we have Sunday morning.
Oh,
we have Sunday school, Sunday mornings, Sunday nights, Wednesday nights, and then we would have Saturdays. We would go out, or maybe it was Thursday nights in the summertime or whatever. I don't remember exactly.
So ballpark, how many days are you at the church?
Well, I would be all day Sunday practically, and then Wednesday, and then the visitation stuff, or the soul winning. 3,
wow.
Only 3.
Only 3,
but then if they had an activity on Friday or Saturday, we would get to go, which was fun. But I don't remember any of them. The only ones I remember are the banquets that we would have, because they had to battle the high school proms and stuff of that nature.
Okay.
because we weren't allowed to dance.
What? Oh gosh. Okay. Okay. All right.
Okay, so that's what I'm just saying. They had banquets instead.
Okay.
So we'd have to get dressed up. We'd get the corsage, have a date, but it would be a boy, usually a Christian boy. Well, obviously, who else would want to go?
Do you guys sit at the same table?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm just trying
But it was a banquet, but no
dancing.
No dancing.
What kind of music were they playing? This it was just not just.
I don't remember.
Okay.
And if it was music, it was probably piano, organ with hymn stuff. There was no worship like we do now with Hillsong. There's none of those Chris Tomlins.
I like Hillsong.
I know. I'm just saying they didn't exist in those days.
All right.
They remember this was the hippie music. They could not have any hippie music.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well. All right. Let's talk. Okay.
You want to talk about the music? We're going right into it.
We're already in the music. Let's talk about the
music was pretty simple.
Okay.
You had piano and organ.
Boring.
No, actually, it was okay because at the particular church, this United Baptist Church, the pastor was young, okay? And he wanted things lively.
Wait a minute, hold on. You just threw a curveball at me. United Baptist Church? I thought this was an IFB.
It is. United Baptist Church was an IFB, but it wasn't.
Oh, okay, all right.
It was,
so what you're saying is that it's under the umbrella of an IFB, but
it's the belief system.
But the church was called
United Baptist Church.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay. So the music, let's go back.
Okay, so the music was upbeat because he really liked upbeat,
Well, I would hope so.
He was young,
Okay.
And he was probably like country music, but wasn't allowed to say that because he was from Colorado originally. But anyway, so we would have fast piano, fast organ, instead of it would be
kind of like a what was it? What are they called? Barbershop.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, a little bit more like that. Do 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 do. It's a little more marchy. They had a little more march feel to it. All the old standard hymns out of the hymnal. No, nothing like that.
Okay.
Nothing. It was like, what a fellowship, what a joy divine, leaning on the everlasting arms. That's fast, very fast.
Okay, all right, okay. So
that was easy. No guitars, no drums, nothing.
Okay.
I mean, they didn't have any orchestra. That's all fluff.
Right.
Because the point was winning souls, getting them in, getting all that stuff.
Okay, so let's talk about. Let's get into talk about. So all this is just so. What were they preaching on Sundays when you were in the big church? What was it all about? I mean,
yes.
Let's talk about that because all I see is the main focus is soul winning, soul winning, soul winning.
Yes, so let's talk about.
What are we soul winning for?
Okay, well, the church.
What's the prep?
When we go into big church on Sunday morning, the pastor would talk about the salvation message.
Talk or scream?
He would scream it.
Okay.
Okay, and he would scream the salvation message, and if you don't accept Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior, you will die and go to hell.
That sounds fun.
Okay, and it was true. I mean, that was what he did. That's what he would lay it out a little better than the Romans road. He'd have all kinds of angles, for it. Thief on the cross, Lazarus, all these things, all the different things. He would always bring it back down to salvation.
Okay.
Always a salvation message. And that's because he had so many visitors. He wanted to get them saved.
Right.
Okay. And then they would come and...
Soul winning.
Yeah, soul winning. That's what it's all about. So that music, all of it was just sort of like a compliment to get that accomplished.
Now, as far as this goes, it's very Rapture.
What is the Rapture, right?
Well, yeah. Well, it's Rapture based, from what I'm understanding.
Okay. So what that was... let's go into dovetail from getting... No, so what I'm trying to say is...
Dovetail?
Yes. That we're dovetailing the subject of soul winning, staying out of hell, getting saved. Why would we want to get saved?
That's
So now it was a rapture teaching, okay? On the rapture.
So we're doing teaching. Okay, so
what is the rapture? Most people listening to this, they may or may not know what that means. Okay?
Right.
Now, the interesting part about the rapture, it wasn't taught until the 19th century.
Right.
And it became popular in the early 20th century. All the Christians prior, there was no such thing as the rapture. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So, what is the rapture? Well, At a time unknown, believers will be bodily taken up to heaven by Christ.
Okay.
Now that's not, the Christ is not returning yet. He is coming in the clouds and taking people up.
Right, okay.
Okay. And the people left behind won't know where they went.
Okay.
Now the people left behind will have to go through a tribulation of 7 years. Now
Okay.
a tribulation, the first 3.5 years will be okay, and the last 3.5 years will be terrible. Okay? The Antichrist will take over the world, and people will have the mark of the beast on their bodies in order to buy or sell anything, or work or do anything.
Right.
Those who refuse the mark will die a martyr's death in order to redeem themselves and get to heaven.
Okay.
So it's very motivating to get saved before this happens.
Right. I see that.
We always had to be ready for the return of Christ, or the rapture, actually. Those who have not heard the gospel will die and go to hell. Their blood will be on our hands because we didn't warn them. So this is
Wow.
another reason why we had to soul win and get them in.
That's.
You see where I'm going with
Yeah,
that?
I do. Yes, I do.
And
That's
if you-
insane.
and-
I mean, to put that in your head that the blood will be on your hands.
Oh, yes, all the time.
That's brutal.
Okay, and now the missionaries will go out to the world, but we had to support those missionaries. If you don't give your money, which was
Right.
faith promise, that's
Yeah.
a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
But the faith promise money to go to the missionaries, then the blood of those people that would have heard if you would have given them money is on your hands.
Okay.
Okay, so this was used to steer people into ministry
Okay.
and always doing church work.
Right.
Okay, so it's fear. It was a fear-based,
fear-based belief.
belief, and it was another excuse for not advancing in your education and your career. If you
Wow.
wanted to go, say, to Stanford, which was right nearby,
Yeah, in Berkeley.
all that too. Those were secular, terrible institutions. Now let me frame this up a little bit more.
Okay.
We're talking about 1968, 69, 70.
Summer Love.
So we're talking about we're only 50 miles south of San Francisco.
Mm.
So all this stuff is happening. You know, I visited up there in Haight-Ashbury at that time. I went to Berkeley at that time. Just for, I'm the type of person that just wants to see what's going on. Not that I would go into it like, I want to be that
You just want
way.
to witness what.
I want to see what it's all about.
Right.
And I was pretty young, and my sisters took me up there. They were a lot older.
Right.
This church here is very conservative and strict, and they're fighting this hippie movement.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that's the music.
Right.
Okay, all of the music, which I love dearly, which I listen to anyway, regardless. That's because my parents weren't in the church, so they didn't enforce that rule. The dress, I like to dress like a hippie. I just like to. Also,
You used to have some clothes that are pretty hippie-ish.
of course. So when you're talking about going to, we had San Jose State. At the time, it's called San Jose State. Now it's a university. All of that, they had these underground magazines that they would be pretty wild, okay, and radical.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, that's basically ground zero.
It was.
Yeah.
It was ground zero. All of the Bay Area.
Yeah.
This was what they were fighting with the youth, was all of the music, the dress, the free love, the drugs. I mean, the whole culture was very alluring, and so that's why they clamped down at this point on us. We couldn't have guitars for our sing-alongs.
Because you could fall into the trap of, oh, wow.
Yes. It was an evil instrument, literally. And the drums were bad, and the reason why was because those came out of Africa. And you have those gyrations of the people dancing to the drums in Africa, and so we couldn't have that in the church.
This is all new to me. So
No. This is the thing. No,
this is reality. Okay.
okay.
Wow. Okay.
So this is part of the youth. The youth.
This is your youth movement.
Yes. Well, we were here in the church, and this is what they were fighting against.
Right.
Okay, we're in California, so there's a lot of swimming
Well, yeah,
pools.
California is just alone. It's its own.
Yeah, well, we were in Northern
world
California. Well,
sometimes,
but there were swimming pools. People like to swim, but they had this thing about and they called it no mixed bathing. Now, we were not getting into bathtubs together.
But since you're in a big, huge body of water.
That's bathing. It's an old Southern term. Okay,
Gotcha.
a lot of these people from the South, Midwest, these are terms that came with it.
All right.
Okay, so we had to, separate swimming areas and separate stuff like that.
Right.
No pants. We never wore pants.
Hmm.
Okay, and most people didn't wear pants in those days anyway. They wore, like you said, Sunday best.
Right.
But pants were coming into more and more. And I remember when my mother came to church to watch me get baptized, I was all nervous.
You came in pants?
Yes. Because my mother didn't wear a skirt after a while, She was a school teacher. Anyway, the bottom line is these were huge deals. All right, so let's get back to...
Well, no, because we were just talking about,
the rapture.
The rapture part.
Okay,
so, basically it's very rapture-based as far as they hammered you heavy with the rapture.
Between the rapture and dying and going to hell.
Right, okay. So, what else about, now, something about some buses? What?
The bus ministry was a popular way to evangelize children.
Okay, so... The majority of what we talk about, buses are always involved for some strange reason.
Well, the buses are... Okay, so let's talk about what they did here in United Baptist Church.
Okay.
It came from, you get a bus, a school bus. Usually they're the ones that are being sold off from a school district or something. Of course. And you go pick up children from the neighborhoods. Now, how do you get those children? Well, workers go out every Saturday, and they start early. They go all day, and they knock on doors. Hi, we're from this church. We're inviting your children, to ride our bus to Sunday school. Would that be okay?
Now, did they use your little forms and stuff?
No, that's different.
Okay, all right. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so these were mostly adults that would do it.
Okay, no, this is fine.
So they would sign up for a bus route. You have this territory. This is the driver. And these are workers. So you go out to your mapped out territory and you would knock on all the doors and then you would sign up kids. Now, most of them were in poorer neighborhoods.
Right.
Parents would go, fine.
Get them out of here.
Yeah, get them out of here because you're picking them up anywhere from 8 to 9 to 10 o'clock. Okay? Mm-hmm. And then they would, do their 2 hours at the church, which is Sunday school and junior church or whatever they had. I didn't do that because I was a drive-in. We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Versus a bus kid.
Gotcha.
Okay, but they would teach them, and then they would drop them back off.
Gotcha.
Okay, you would fill a bus, 30 kids, and they didn't have the safety rules. They would just put them in there, you know. They would sing songs on the bus and entertain them and stuff. But that's how they would grow their Sunday school because the goal was to get the biggest Sunday school in the IFB. This is the Independent Fundamental Baptist Church of all the fellowship churches.
Right.
Okay. It was like a contest, and we had different contests also to grow the church.
Go on.
So, the bus ministry, they would have their own bus contests. Uh-huh. Okay, so you have bus, Route A, Route B, or whatever they call it, red, blue, whatever the routes were called.
Right.
And then they would see how many they could get more from from week to week, or how many they had in the quarter. I mean, it's all like a sales mentality, to be honest with you. And what is the reward you got? And your reward's in heaven.
Okay.
Now, these adults, not only are they going to, they're spending all their Saturdays doing this, and then all day Sundays they do this.
That's their weekends.
Yeah, that's their whole weekend.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So the contest that we would do, I actually won. I won a contest.
What did you win besides a clap?
I won, because I was a kid. No, I won a 10-speed bicycle, and it was really a nice one.
Oh, that's cool.
In those days, it's probably about $100 one.
Well, $100 then is probably $1,000 now.
It was a lot, yeah.
Right. That's cool.
Yeah. Well, what did I have to do, Carl, in order to win that thing?
Win souls?
I had to bring people to church.
On that bicycle?
No. I had to win it first. I had to win it first.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't use it.
Oh, okay.
So my goals,
right.
It's all goal setting, 20 children, and I had to, verify it. So I had to, they had to come in and get registered on my
Your account?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
20 children, 15 teenagers, and 10 adults.
Wait, hold on. You mean to tell me that the goal was 20 kids,
15
teenagers, and 10 adults.
Now, this is like within a 10-week period or something of that nature.
Okay.
And they had different prizes. They had
like
this
10 families or 5 families.
Well, just do the math.
I am. That's okay.
It's a lot of people.
It's a ton of people, and you won the bike.
Yes.
How many did you get? Do you remember your numbers?
Yeah, I got 20 children.
Oh, these are the numbers.
15 adults.
Oh, okay.
I mean 15 teenagers.
Teenagers and 10 adults.
Yes. Over that period of time.
And so did the church set these goals, or that was?
Yes. Oh. In order to win the bike, I had to do that.
Oh, jeez. What was second place?
I don't know.
5 kids, 2 teenagers, and an adult?
I don't know. I mean, at that point...
Look at you!
At
you
that
little go-getter.
When you're in a sales organization, you always want to be the top salesperson.
Of course.
Okay, so you don't remember what second prize is.
No, my God. Okay, that's awesome.
Okay, so can you get the theme of it? Bring them in from those fields of sin. Yeah, okay. You didn't know that? That's a hymn.
No, I did not know. I don't mean to laugh, but this is gold. Okay.
No, but that stuff is from the, from the 19th century all the way through. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Those are hymns.
Bring them in from the field of sin. I'm going to be humming that all day.
Okay.
That is gold. Okay. So you have the bus ministry. So now, what is this Sword of the Lord conference?
Okay.
Because when we brought this up about Sword of the Lord, Dad's like, they still do Sword of the Lord? Oh my gosh. I'm like, wait, what? I'm sorry, huh? What?
This was an everyday conversation for us, so you not knowing about it is kind of funny.
Well, no,
why would you know?
I've heard the term Sword of the Lord, like the Sword of the Lord is our strength kind of stuff.
Yeah, that and the Sword of the Lord in Gideon,
I don't know that one.
Oh gosh, okay.
Okay, shows how much I paid attention. But no, it's just okay because as soon as you mentioned it, Dad's like, oh my God, what? Like he perked up.
Of course.
Okay, so what is this Sword of the Lord conference?
Well, the Sword of the Lord conference came about because John R. Rice, he was an evangelist.
Okay.
And a preacher. Okay, he was a Sword of the Lord, and he was an evangelist and a preacher. Mm-hmm. And he started the publication, a publishing house called The Sword of the Lord, and they had books that he wrote and others, and also a newspaper. Okay, called The Sword of the Lord, and they would print preaching. The people, they would transcribe preaching. And send it out. Okay. So The Sword of the Lord came because people really liked it. Hey, let's have a conference.
Okay. Right. So what would this be in the daytime, afternoon? What was this?
I'm trying to think of how it went. Probably Thursday and Friday nights, Saturdays, they would have evening services on the work days. Okay. And then Saturdays they would have probably something going on, but I remember just going in the evening.
Okay, so you went, all right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I was a kid, I wasn't going to go Thursday, and I wasn't going to go Friday. Right. Unless they had something youthy there.
Gotcha, okay.
Now, the big deal was they had John R. Rice, and then they would have Jack Hyles come. Okay. Now, Jack Hyles, he was based in Hammond, Indiana, and he was a mentor to our pastor, Larry Chappell. Now, by this time, Larry Chappell might be 25, because I'm getting older now. Right. But he's still very young. Right. And I would imagine Jack Hyles is probably 15, 20 years his senior. Gotcha. Okay. And lots of experience. Right. And all these ideas for all the things that we just talked about are from Jack Hyles and his church, First Baptist Church in Hammond, Indiana, like the bus ministry and all that. We won't go into that, but we would go to the Sword of the Lord conferences. Mm-hmm.
Real quick, did you take me to one of these?
No.
Does he sound super? Oh no, that was the power team. Never mind. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's something different. We would have to listen to John R. Rice preach first. Well, okay. By the time he was doing this, he was elderly. Okay, and it was terrible.
Just like the previous pastor from your previous church.
No, I don't remember well, maybe.
Maybe. Okay.
I don't know.
Was it like monotone or
no,
just like...
I can't describe it. It
Like,
just...
like,
I was used to...
this and blah, da, da, da,
Well,
da,
I
da.
was used to a man who was
Screaming,
hollering and
yeah.
screaming and pounding the pulpit. This guy was way too old for that kind of stuff. You know?
This guy was more like the silky smooth sounds of...
No, he was just teaching. He's probably, I would have enjoyed it more now. I'm not sure. He used to know Billy Sunday. Who's Billy Sunday? Google it. He was a big evangelist in the early part of the 20th century.
Gotcha,
But anyway, we'd have to go and we'd like set our timers because we wanted to hear Jack Hyles.
Okay, so he was the bait.
Yeah, so he had to go first because he was tired and the whole bit. I don't
He's
even
older.
know.
He's just older. Okay.
But he was actually the spearhead of the whole thing. But
Gotcha.
anyway, so we would do that. We'd have to suffer through because you can't just come in halfway through.
Oh, it's
You
not
cannot
allowed.
do it. No. Because everybody was there to grab a seat, a good seat, and then you had to hang onto your seat. So then Jack Hyles would come up, and he was very dynamic. He would holler too, but not as hard. But he
Right.
would still holler,
Right.
okay, and pound the pulpit.
Yeah.
But he would tell story after story after story about really stuff that he knew about or he did, or a Bible story. He would always, intertwine everything.
Gotcha.
He would
He
really
could tell the story.
Oh yeah, he would
Great showman.
well that and he would make you spellbound,
Right.
And I just loved every minute of it.
Right.
And he would do it for an hour and a half. I didn't care.
And you were hooked.
I just loved it. And I was probably, 15, 16, 17. I would do that all day.
Awesome.
Okay. And then after we would just go meet him, he'd be in the foyer and we'd just
I'm assuming they had like t-shirts for sale.
No.
No, not even t-shirts.
No, they
That
don't
was not
believe
allowed
in
either?
well, they don't believe in t-shirts.
Oh god.
Okay, we're talking back in the hippie days, okay? This is
T-shirts are hippie?
Yes, they're not formal. You can't wear them to church. Why would you want a t-shirt?
Nowadays.
They didn't have hoodies.
Nowadays there's t-shirts everywhere.
No, t-shirts were for working out.
Okay.
They were for track and field.
Okay. Then what did
Different day.
So so they have like knickknacks. So what would you just...
Okay, so what did they sell? They sold books.
Okay.
And they were hardbound books. I don't think they had tapes yet because it was still early.
Okay.
They didn't really have the cassette tapes. I don't know if they had records. I don't remember because
Right.
that was the only other way to do it. I just know they did sell books. And
Okay.
they did talk a lot about their college. He was starting a college,
What college was this?
Hyles Anderson College in Crown Point, Indiana.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but it was a brand new thing that he was doing, and it wasn't quite off the ground. He's just trying to get people interested in it. But it was really...
Sending out feelers.
I really liked the Sword of the Lord conferences because Jack Hyles would come.
Gotcha.
We got to talk about that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so this is what they did. This is pretty much their
Okay, so
base.
this is all the ministry that we did.
Okay, that's all during your MLAB, as we're calling this
Now,
episode.
what is MLAB?
I don't know. You tell me. What is MLAB? It's
MLAB?
Yeah, what is MLAB?
My Life as a Baptist.
Okay, so that's what this episode will be called, is MLAB.
My
So
Life as a Baptist.
My Life as a Baptist. So let's go ahead and break down the beginning, the ground roots, as we'll call it, for the IFB. Now you're talking about Jack Hyles. He's pretty much the main speaker of this movement, I guess we'll call it.
I would say yes, because he was very prolific in his book writing.
Okay.
He preached all over.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Very dynamic. And for a guy in those days, he was in his mid-40s, so he was...
So he just popped up out of nowhere and just poof, there it was. I mean, did he have some setup? I mean, did he have any mentors? I mean, who's this?
Well, okay.
This guy that was speaking that was very old.
Okay, you're right. He did have mentors.
Okay.
One is John R. Rice.
Okay, let's talk about. Is this is the guy who spoke before in the Sword of the Lord? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So who is this John R. Rice character?
Okay.
Or
So
person?
John R. Rice, he was mentored by another man named J. Frank Norris.
Okay.
Now, J. Frank Norris, this is back in the 20s and 30s, okay?
Okay.
Long time ago.
All right.
He was actually the leader of, it was not the Independent Fundamental Baptist, but it was called an Independent Baptist movement. It's not Southern Baptist. It's
Right.
not American. It's these guys who basically, broke away from
The original
Southern Baptists.
Okay.
Now,
so,
these people are from the South.
Right.
That's a different culture than California.
Oh,
Okay.
yes.
Well, now J. Frank Norris was a very strong leader at that time, and there was a trial back in those days called the Scopes trial. Now, what that trial was, it was infamous, was the teaching of evolution in public schools in Tennessee.
Okay.
So this is back in the day where they had creationism versus evolution.
Okay.
And they wanted to introduce evolution into the schools in the South, and when it was Tennessee, and they were fighting against it, so they went to the Supreme Court.
Okay.
And that was where evolution was able to be taught in the schools.
Gotcha.
Okay. J. Frank Norris was part of that
movement.
kind of movement.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, then there was a split between John R. Rice and him. They had fights with the Southern Baptist Convention. John R. Rice rose because he was an evangelist. He would go from town to town. They would have big revival meetings. It wasn't sort of the Lord yet, but then what they would do is they would leave behind a church, and that's how they planted churches in those days.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so they'd have a small town. Everyone would go to the revival because there's nothing else to do.
Yeah, no. Yeah, exactly.
It's like the circus came to town, and then they would establish a church. And that's kind of how he did it.
Gotcha.
Okay. One of the big things that he did, which I didn't realize until I studied him.
He being John Rice?
Yes, John
Okay.
R. Rice.
Mm-hmm.
He was on the radio. He was on a newspaper. He wrote newspaper articles. He broke up with J. Frank Norris in their relationship. He then became a mentor for Billy Graham.
Shut up.
Yes, he was a mentor of Billy Graham, and the tale of Rice's painful parting with Graham is told from Rice's vantage point in another book that they have. Okay, so Billy Graham, yes.
The Billy Graham.
Yes, so Billy Graham came out of John R. Rice and this whole movement.
Oh, okay. So
that's why they didn't like him at all.
Ooh, okay. So that's... Oh, all right. So the plot does thicken. Okay, cool. Is it just John R. Rice? Who else did Mr. Hyles... I'm sorry, Dr. Jack Hyles. Who else was behind him in regards to this? Who else was his mentor? You said mentors.
Mentors was B.R. Lakin.
Okay. Who's B.R. Lincoln?
Well, he was a Baptist preacher and an evangelist.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he did similar things. You know, they go around, they preach. The interesting thing about him was he and his wife only had one child who unfortunately was killed at an early age in an automobile accident. So they adopted the young Jerry Falwell.
Shut up.
And Lincoln mentored and poured himself into Falwell's Lynchburg ministry.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, there is another connection, to people that we know, pretty much as a household name, Jerry Falwell.
If you don't know who Jerry Falwell is, you're living under a rock. But go ahead.
Some people that are younger would not know him.
Yeah, good point.
Okay?
You're right.
But,
Yeah,
we all listen, I'm assuming you know things, and you don't.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so Liberty Baptist Church in Lynchburg, Virginia is a current church, and Jerry Falwell's son is running it now because Jerry Falwell has passed away.
Yeah, believe it or not, just to kind of tail on this, because in another podcast, which I'm not going to mention, but that we covered Falwell, and his son is actually doing a fantastic job with what his father's left. He's done a great job running it, but Falwell did start Liberty University.
Yes, he did.
It's still
it was
going
Liberty.
on to this day.
It was Liberty Baptist Bible College, and then it went into the
Liberty
university.
University, yeah.
So here we have B.R. Lincoln, and he has a department of religion they have like a wing or a school of religion that is named in honorary of B.R. Lakin, Lakin.
Okay, cool. Well, who else?
Lee Roberson. Now, he was an American pastor and an evangelist. His claim to fame was he started Tennessee Temple University.
Okay.
In Murfreesboro.
Oh.
No, Chattanooga. Sorry.
I was like, we know
Murfreesboro Tennessee was where the sword of the Lord was.
Shut up. Yes. We have friends who live in Murfreesboro.
Yes, we do. That's why when they moved there, I'm like, I know that town.
Oh, my gosh. If you don't know where Murfreesboro is, it's right outside of Nashville. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it is. Okay, that's where the sword of the Lord headquarters were. So Tennessee Temple was in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and
Gotcha.
I actually considered going there myself.
Really?
Before I did go to the college I ended up at, and we
Okay.
didn't talk about that.
Yeah, we can talk about it if you want. So.
Well, not right yet.
Okay.
His claim to fame was that, and he had the Highland Park Baptist Church. He did a lot in the form of Christian education for many decades. Unfortunately, Tennessee Temple is no longer in existence. Okay.
I mean, still, I mean,
a lot of times when people of strong leadership pass away, they don't have someone like the son of Falwell to pick it up, or they didn't organize it in a certain way. It's just gonna kind of dwindle down.
Yeah, because I know that there's also another preacher who also started Oral Roberts University. His son ran it for a while as well. So, and his Richard, yeah, but his daughter actually runs the medical center to this day over at Oral Roberts University. So
okay, good. And now
sorry, it's a little side note. I apologize.
That's fine.
But
and then the last guy I want to mention real quick. He's more of a person of renown even outside of the Baptist circle. His name is Jack Van Impe.
Okay.
Now he was called the Walking Bible. Now this is in the late 60s, early 70s, and he would come and he would preach on end times, okay? And he was very dynamic speaker.
It's up these people's alley.
Oh yeah. He was actually the one that kind of got them to structure the end times the way that they all believed.
Gotcha.
Okay. And even to this day, there are other denominations that believe the same.
Okay, so
they
very
believe the
influential.
same. Yeah, because he did branch out after this into outside of the Baptist circle. He even was on TBN for many years with a show.
Trinity Broadcasting.
Yes, we're all related here. And but he had a falling out with that Trinity Broadcasting, and I can't remember why right now. But anyway, but he was called the Walking Bible, and he talked about end times, and he scared the HE double hockey sticks out of us, okay?
Very nice.
With that. And the tribulation and all of that stuff.
Okay, so you got this individual, which we call him Dr. Jack Hyles. These are some pretty impressive mentors. This is not, just some Johnny-come-latelys or people who have just a small little resume. These people are pretty influential.
Yes.
Very influential. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Dr. Jack Hyles. Let's talk about him a little bit.
Okay.
So
let's talk about him. Just a little bit of his background.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Just a little bit. He was born in Texas. Okay. And during the Depression. Okay. So he was dirt poor, and his mother raised him by himself. No, actually, that's not correct. He had a sister that's quite a bit older. They would have barely anything to survive. But he was raised in a godly home. His mother was godly, and she made sure he went to church and all that stuff, and was raised up in the Christian faith. Okay? He went to Bible college, became, ordained, and he had several churches in Texas. They were very tiny and small out in the country, and he would, teach and go and do all that stuff. He landed in Texas in Miller Road Baptist Church. He grew that church to about 6,000 people.
That's a nice size.
Yeah, he would love that place. That's where he was gonna, die there. There's a big story. Won't go into it on how he ended up going to Hammond, Indiana. Okay. Now, for a Texas boy, Hammond, Indiana, it's the northern. Okay?
Pretty much.
And it's Yankee land.
Yes, it is.
Okay. But anyway, God called him to that church. It was a established church, probably over 100 years old when he went there. And they were in a different Baptist organization. I don't remember which one. Mm-hmm. But he got called to preach there. Once he got there, there was a big split because people that had been there forever didn't like him. Because all this stuff that we just talked about at United Baptist Church all came from him. So he's changing this traditional Baptist church of 100 years into this soul-winning manufacturing plant.
Gotcha.
Okay? Gotcha. So they weren't going for it. Right. So they left. But he ended up, doing the pattern of the church that we were like, just like we patterned our church after Hammond, Indiana. So there you go. Right. Okay? So he was a mentor to my pastor, Larry Chappell.
Okay.
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 Yeah.
And what else you know, he thinks he wrote some books. That's what it
He
looks
wrote
like.
52 books.
That's a lot of books.
A lot of the books, as I was reading the list, he's incorporated, those books were just written out of sermons that he's preached.
Okay.
Because a lot of the titles are like, oh, yeah, I heard him, preach that one. But a lot of the famous ones are like Blue Denim and Lace, Strength and Beauty, Hyles Sunday School Manual. There's a ton of books. Some of them are funny.
No.
One was called Jesus Had Short Hair. And he has a whole sermon and a book about it. Now remember, we're fighting hippies. We're fighting hippies. Okay?
I know.
Okay.
It's just fun. Now, did you ever get to meet any of these people?
Oh, I met them all.
You've met all these people. Oh,
Yeah, in
okay.
fact, a sad story for me, I had a Schofield Bible, an old Schofield Bible. No, it was a new one. Anyway, it was a Schofield Bible. This is a big deal, and I won't go into it, but the Baptists always had Schofield Bibles.
Right.
They were reference Bibles.
Remember, this is your...
Yeah, exactly.
This is your life, so it's meaningful. Go ahead.
So what we would do is these guys would come through, and we'd have them sign our Bible if it was a popular missionary, or these guys sort of the Lord, or
So the guys were like rock stars.
They were.
They were your rock stars.
Exactly. We looked up to them, so we would have them sign our Bibles, and I had all these really cool. I mean, oh my goodness! Now I think about it, I just cry. I went back. Oh gosh, it was probably to visit United Baptist Church, maybe in the 80s. Okay. I just wanted to go up. My mother lived nearby. We went.
Gotcha.
I don't even know if you guys went. I just went.
Right.
Okay. And I went, and it was great. And I ended up leaving my Bible there for some reason. I don't know why. I left it by accident. I called the office. They said they'd hold it for me. And I asked my mother to go pick it up.
She never did.
Well, no. She went like 3 months later.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, this Bible was something I could never replace. And I mean, she felt bad, but you know what? Dude, you got to go and get my Bible. I kept asking her.
Dude, go get
I
my
would have
Bible.
gone up. I would have probably
Should've just
driven
driven up there to get
but
it,
it's
yeah.
almost 400 miles.
It's worth the drive. Okay,
Yeah,
so John R. Rice, your first. When did you meet John R. Rice?
Well, sort of the Lord, probably in 1967 or 8.
Okay.
69. I don't know, somewhere in there.
Okay, and so
All of them.
you met all these at the same time, or
Oh,
different-
well, within a span of those years, because I was at United Baptist Church.
Gotcha. Oh, so
at those times.
So, B.R. Larkin, same thing. Sword of the Lord.
All that.
Lee Robertson, same thing, and John Van Impe.
Yeah, he wasn't with Sword of the Lord, but he would come through.
Okay, and of course you have was it your first time? Or your only interaction with Jack Hyles? You want to talk about that?
Oh, well, I just say hello. I'd be all nervous, But he was totally sweet, and he was funny, and he'd be very respectful and loving, and these are the things that I knew about him, but I wasn't at his church in Hammond, Indiana.
Right. Now,
Okay.
you took me to go see one of these guys teach, right?
Maybe we went to Long Beach.
Yeah. Who did we...
Okay, we went down to Long Beach. It was First Baptist Church of Long Beach in California.
Yeah.
We went there because I believe Jack Hyles was preaching, and I wanted to see him again. This was in the 90s? Yes, it was in the 90s. I could probably research a little bit more and tell you later more about that, because do you remember how old you were?
I just remember going in the Oldsmobile.
Oh, really?
We were in the Oldsmobile.
Okay, then we were definitely in 90, 91, somewhere in there.
Yeah, it was the Oldsmobile. I remember
Yeah,
going
90,
in the
91,
Oldsmobile.
92, somewhere in there.
Yeah, we went to a 7-Eleven because we were early.
Okay, yeah. So, but
I remember that. I don't remember a lot of it, but I remember that you went with me, I went with you, and we were in the Oldsmobile, and you were super stoked to see this dude teach, and I was just like, okay, whatever. Yeah,
And then
I
do you
didn't have the
remember any
option.
more of it?
I don't remember any of it, but I know that I enjoyed it, and you were super stoked.
Okay, so Larry Chappell, my original pastor, United Baptist Church, had a long, history, but he at that moment was in the First Baptist Church in Long Beach, California, which is a huge church.
Yeah, I remember it was massive.
Yeah.
It was huge.
Yeah, it was really nice.
It was.
So we lived in Anaheim, so we lived right, within 20 some miles of the place.
Yeah.
So we went there because I wanted to see Jack Hyles again.
Right.
In the church I was in at that point, we weren't going to have Jack Hyles come.
Right.
Because we weren't in that group anymore.
Right.
So it was exciting.
Right.
And I was,
Now, who taught
I forgot about this.
You forgot about this?
Yeah, I remember now that you tell me.
Oh, it jogging your memory?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, because I know, the sad thing is I remember what I wore. Because you were I do.
Oh, yeah, because you had to be proper.
Yes, you emphasized this. So I wore the cleanest shoes I had. I wore they were Dickies, but they were the khaki green Dickies, and I think you made me wear. Oh, was it a button down? I think it was a
collared. Had to be on a collared shirt.
It was a polo shirt. It was a polo
collared,
shirt. It was a collared shirt. It was a polo shirt. It was a polo shirt.
Okay.
I remember it was a white polo shirt. Yes, I remember this now because I was upset because I wanted to wear my fat cap shirt, and you told me I couldn't wear it because it wasn't proper, and you made me change the laces in my Pumas because they were fat laces, and you said that would. Yes, I remember this now. Yes, this is probably the reason why I distinctly remember this. And I couldn't wear my hat either, and I was really upset. So
no hats.
No
in
hats
church.
allowed. No. So yeah, this was a whole yeah.
Well, it was a culture change for you.
Oh my gosh, it was.
From where we were to this is
this
night
was
and day.
Oh,
yeah.
completely night and day. That's why I remember
fun.
I was upset because you wouldn't let me wear my clothes. You made me change my laces because I had the fat laces, and you said no, you can't wear those. You're not going to look like a hoodlum.
That's true because in your day at that time you were wearing the baggy pants.
Yes, I was.
It was all the brand new hip hop stuff.
Yes.
The rap stuff. Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, because that was definitely not allowed.
Yeah.
But I know that I did enjoy myself afterwards because you did say that we would get a Slurpee or something at the 7-Eleven.
I had to bribe you.
Yeah, bribe me. So, but that's cool. I mean, but you were super stoked.
I was.
So, I mean, we've done an adventure like that also.
Okay, so you did hear Jack Hyles. Now,
so that was Jack Hyles teaching.
Yes.
Okay, because I remember yelling. I do remember some yelling, but see, here's another little thing. You got the tapes.
Yes.
So you were getting these tapes for years and years and years.
And I would put them in the car when we would go on long trips because we would go outreaches and stuff. So and all that. So I'd always have those tapes.
I was numb to the yelling and stuff. So like, oh man, this guy really is just like he's on the tape.
Do you remember? I tried.
I did and I failed. Yes.
But I failed.
Yeah. I tried and I failed.
And I failed. Remember you? That's what I think. That's when you heard that one.
And next thing you know, I did it. And it was the Lord who made me do it. Like I was like, okay, all right. Yes, that's the
that was the one sermon that you
that
heard
I
live.
still remember. I'm like, it was. I tried and I failed.
Yeah,
it was because I remember doing the whole. Yes, okay. And then when the tape came in, I guess they recorded it.
Well, he'd say a lot of the same sermons. You know, not everyone had tapes like me.
Right.
So they would, he would say the sermon maybe on another night in his own church.
No, I remember you were so like, oh my gosh, the tried and I failed. I remember, certain things, same thing jogged my memory as well. But I do remember that I tried and failed. So it was Jack Hyles.
Yes.
So I did get to see him teach.
Yay! Okay.
I'm involved now, vested. Yay! Okay, so there's your setup, ladies and gentlemen. Setup for, unfortunately, we are gonna dice.
It's gonna be a part 2.
There's gonna be at least a part 2. At least a part 2 to this, guys. We are going to break down.
Because we are way over our time.
Oh, it's okay. That's fine. This is a good story. We're telling a good story.
Well, not only that, people with the lovely thing about a podcast is you can pause it and come back.
Isn't that nifty?
I do that all the time.
Oh, technology. So this is pretty much the wrap up for now for episode 1 is My Life as a Baptist. So, of course, Holly's going to chime in when we're talking and discussing certain things when we are breaking down.
Now, what is the next part going to be about?
Well, we're gonna break down the man that the congregation only called him preacher, but everyone else called him Dr. Jack Hyles. We're gonna break him down because some information has come to my attention that there's a little more than meets the eye with Mr. Hyles. So,
You mean preacher?
I mean, well, I'm not a member of
Or Dr. Jack
Oh,
Hyles.
yeah. It's either
Dr.
Jack,
Hyles,
Dr.
yeah.
Hyles or Dr. Jack Hyles, or if you were a certified member, I guess they call certified.
Well, if you go to the First Baptist Church of Hammond, Indiana.
Yeah, you did not call him by his name. You called him preacher.
Preacher.
So, alrighty, guys. Well, we hope you enjoyed this this special episode. Of course, I'm actually looking forward to the breakdown of Jack Hyles. It's going to be. I'm very excited. I'm very ecstatic. I can't wait for episode 2. But until then, good night, Holly.
Good night, Carl.